going to go quite rapidly because I've got a lot to cover. So if anybody needs to stop me, clarify something, please don't disappoint. First of all, a little bit about Magna. You may or may not know Magna, but last year our sales were 32 billion US dollars. And the reason I wanted to mention that is because we were down by about 4 billion from 2014. And the reason was because we sold our interior division, which was a low-tech commodity type business. We did a deal to replace that.
Do I need to go back to the start? Yeah. So as I was saying, we sold our interiors business, and in January this year we replaced it with an acquisition of a company called Getrag, which is the largest independent manufacturer of transmissions in the world. And part of what that brings us, which is relevant to what I'm going to talk about, is that they are the largest manufacturer of DCTs in the world. Dual clutch transmissions, which brings us a huge software capability, and that adds very much to the software capability that we want to build up for the future. So in terms of what we do, the products that we've got remaining, we're heavily involved in body and chassis, powertrain, which Getrag adds to, vision systems, seating, electronics, which we'll talk about. But what makes Magna a little bit unique among automotive suppliers is we develop complete vehicles. The best example I can give you is the first generation BMW X3, which we developed 100% under contract from BMW. And then we manufactured the whole first generation of the X3. So the other thing that's unique is that we are a contract manufacturer of complete vehicles. Why is that relevant to ADAS? Well, it gives us a unique perspective of what is involved in putting ADAS systems into an entire vehicle, combining them with other parts of the electronic architecture, and obviously processing the whole homologation of vehicles through the different homologation requirements in Europe and North America and so on. And the other product areas obviously keep us involved in locations for cameras and sensors, so we can work with the OEM to place the ADAS system. You know, one of the things I wanted to give you a perspective on is how the automotive industry is changing. And Mary Barra, who's the CEO of GM, has said that the automotive industry in the next 5 years will change more than it has changed in the last 50 years. And we would agree with that. And what's changing in addition to the technology changing is the whole consumer perspective of the use of a vehicle. And as you can see here, we've gone in 100 years from the transfer from a horse to an automobile, right up to the potential in the coming years for the vehicle to drive by itself. You might say that the horse drove by itself, so we might be going backward, but we're actually going forward. But it's very important as we design and develop components for vehicles and complete vehicles that we understand where the consumer is headed. So, you know, we went from the first requirement being to make vehicles affordable, you know, back in the 1915 era. And then we went to making those vehicles safer because the initial vehicles were very dangerous. Then we went to making the car reliable, more reliable. And that is not that long ago when cars were very, very unreliable. So a huge effort went into satisfying the consumer's demands to make the automobile a reliable transportation device. And then we went into a period of integration, which is also very recent, which is in the digital age, where consumers started to say, I want all the features that I can get from my cell phone and my other devices that I have in my house in my vehicle. That happened, big change, happened very rapidly, and it's still ongoing. And now we're approaching an age where the consumer is looking at not necessarily owning a vehicle all the time, or not necessarily driving one vehicle all the time, but sharing the driving experience with somebody else. That's going to have a big impact. And if you see what's happening in China, there are a number of companies, internet and communications companies in China, who are looking at getting into the automotive manufacturing business to provide themselves with their own fleet of vehicles. So you would have a situation where you would be talking on your cell phone to a company, asking them for a vehicle to come to your house. That vehicle would be an electric vehicle, as in the vision of these Chinese companies. The vehicle would come around to your house, and ultimately that would be a autonomous driving vehicle. So that vehicle would be programmed by you to go wherever you want to go, and to pick you up when you're finished and bring you home with no humans involved. So that's the long-term vision. So we're entering that age, and obviously then the whole self-driving age. So it's very important to keep in perspective, I'm going the wrong way here, keep perspective of going forward. So the path, autonomous driving, full autonomous driving, without a huge amount of work being put into the infrastructure and into all aspects of making sure that autonomous driving brings more safety, not more danger. So these things are very important to look at the past. Now, to talk about a little bit about Magna's experience. Magna is heavily focused on the vision side of ADAS, and the reason for that is that very soon after the first rear view mirror was introduced, which was the first record of an interior or a rear view mirror of any sort, was at the Indianapolis 500 in 1911, where a racing driver had the idea to mount a mirror on his vehicle. And very soon after that, it became a standard feature to have an interior rear view mirror on a vehicle. And very soon after that, Magna became involved in manufacturing the rear view mirrors. So our whole perspective on ADAS comes out of not so much innovation or focus on new products, but because we have made for over 20 years now more than 50 million rear view mirrors, having introduced the first daylight mirror in the 40s. The first prismatic daylight mirror was a Magna development. We introduced the first outside mirrors, the first door mirrors through the 60s, the first convex mirrors. So we had a big concern in the 1990s about what could replace mirrors, and the answer to that was cameras. So we started working very early in the 90s on cameras. So the whole development of cameras was based on trying to make sure that we were on top when the conversion of cameras came across from mirrors. However, as you know, in the 90s and early 2000s, the cameras were not very good. We decided to concentrate on CMOS cameras because of the digital possibilities. But we worked very quickly and diligently to replace all three mirrors with a camera vision system. And we already had that on the road in 1999. We called it our panoramic vision system. We actually showed that in the 2000 Frankfurt Auto Show on the Renault Talisman. And in the same year, we actually equipped the vehicle for Hyundai Kia, which we shipped back to Nanyang, and which they experimented with. But clearly, at that time, the cameras were not ready, the displays were not ready, the computer processing capability was not ready. We had to have a huge processor in the vehicle to process the images from, as you can see, the outside mirrors have been replaced by two cameras, and the inside mirror has a camera near the logo at the rear of the vehicle. We took those three images, we merged them. Processing power was difficult, the images were bad, nighttime vision was difficult, bad weather driving was difficult, but we got there back in 1999. It's taken quite some time to get to the level that is required for autonomous driving, but now it's all happening very quickly. So if we look at the products that we're focused on now and that are in the market in general, there's a huge range of different things that have been made possible by the improvements in cameras and computing power. Everything from automatic braking to rear vision to blind spot detection. and so on. We have worked diligently on developing our capability in each of those. But one of the things that's very important and that has changed dramatically, whereas we would have developed an interior mirror, an exterior mirror by ourselves, more and more we're seeing firms from outside the automotive industry come into automotive with their capabilities, because they're bringing technologies, capabilities that have been developed outside automotive. So it's very important to have partnerships today with companies that are on the cutting edge of technologies used outside automotive, which are in advanced stages of development. So we're working closely with a number of people, and we're actively identifying people openly in North America, Europe, and in Asia to work with, because the future, as we will see, is not determined yet, and it's going to be very, very complex. And these partnerships are going to be more and more important. Now, if you look at ADAS systems, as I mentioned, we had one in 1999. Many OEMs have been experiencing introductions of different types of systems. There was a lot of different stuff went on between 1999 and 2012. But then you can see the exponential increase. And we believe that's going to continue. It may be held back by some other factors, which I think everybody is concerned and interested about, and I'm going to cover in a couple of minutes. In terms of Magna's focus, our uniqueness, we believe, is the fact that we're focused heavily on vision-based ADAS and on a combination of machine vision and image vision. And both of these are very important for the stage, the present stage of ADAS and the progress towards autonomous driving, which many see as the ultimate goal. And our brand name that we use is Iris, which gives us leadership in near and far vision. In terms of the ADAS sensor market right now, we have about 21%, we believe, of the global market. So we're not a small player, even though we're not involved in all of the aspects of ADAS. So we produce about 6 million cameras today. Our more concern is where the future is going. One of the things that's very difficult when you're dealing with ADAS is it's important to have a broad customer base, which we're happy to have. However, that gives a lot of challenges because, as you know, the industry hasn't settled on any standard system for ADAS or autonomous driving or any aspect of it. So all of the OEMs have a totally different perspective. Now, one of the things that's very important in the adoption of autonomous driving and advanced ADAS systems, as I mentioned, is the issue of safety. And the problem always with safety is the consumer doesn't want to pay for safety. The consumer also doesn't want to pay more for a vehicle. So we as suppliers always struggle with the issue of how do we give the OEM something that they can put on your vehicle while at the same time help them reduce the cost of the other components on the vehicle so that they can give the consumer something else. The consumer wants exciting things. No consumer believes they will ever have an accident. If they did, safety would obviously be the most attractive feature. They assume that we're going to, as the suppliers and the OEM, give them safety. But adding an extra $1,000 or $2,000 to the vehicle price is something very few consumers will actively do. In terms of the different types of products out there, you've seen some already, but there's a gradual evolution from the present to simple reversing cameras, to simple parking systems, the surround view. A lot of people have talked about that, but ours comes from our panoramic vision system that, as I said, we introduced in 1999. Cross-traffic. One of the key things with ADAS and autonomous driving is not going to be just what you do with your vehicle, but what information you get on all the other vehicles on the road. And I have a big question as to when people say to me, and I'm asked very regularly in China, can China be the first one and the biggest one into autonomous driving? And I say, have you ever driven in China? Because it's not just a question of you, it's a question of a lot of people that don't follow traffic rules, driving sometimes down the wrong side of the road. How does the machine vision system, the computer on the vehicle that's looking out to help you drive autonomously, how does it predict all of that?